Ciao Bambini, ciao Colin. What's up?
I had a good week on the behest of some members of the Telegram group. I've been listening to the Cocktail Twins. So it's been a very chill. I haven't been high, but I feel like I've been high. So that's a good
Right.
time.
Well,
I'm
it's a
very good
good,
to work to, actually.
yeah, and it's a good, like it's a domestic vibe for you. So there's like it's good to get into that sort of soil of country, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's very, it's homemaker vibes. Like she's hometown hero, you know. I mean, it's like another creature that we have to discuss. Absolutely.
Nice one, nice one. Yeah, it's been. I'm looking forward to this. This is one of those cards I think that demonstrates the superiority in many respects of Lenormand over Tarot, which is the Coffin, and we'll get to why eventually, as in maybe even imminently. But before that, as a demonstration of our professionalism, we actually have some fucking cards for sale. Yeah.
What?
What better one to start on than that? So I'm going to switch over to screen share and show people where that is, and you will notice it has my enemy all lined up, Pinterest. But if I move to the next tab, here we go. Fool and His Money. This is the cards and book set, of course. Now, I kind of mentioned to the premium members that this is like a Kickstarter style project, but we're using my own website so that, quite frankly, we don't have to give Kickstarter a kickback. That's famously what the kick stands for in it. So this is a Fool and His Money pack, right? And it's the premium cardstock version of the deck itself, of course, and a copy of Fortune's Fools, A Book of Cartomancy. Now that is an LWB, for those in the biz, Little White Book, but it's also my fortune-telling book, which is one I've actually been noodling at on and off for years. And I know for premium members who've done the tarot course and so on, they found a lot of value in that. So this is going to be, this is a proper book. And it's going to be the only way that you get it. So as you can kind of see here, obviously as we get closer and closer to the artwork being done, but here's where you get it. And there will be a link below this video. And we haven't quite integrated it into the store yet. So you will find this on the post page for this episode, or you go to fortunesfools.runesoup.com depending on when you're watching it. But there you go, USD $80 plus shipping and delivery. Again, the world, especially at the moment, is so fucked. But we kind of know we're at card 8. We have to go to card 36. We are already in research phase about how we build these things. So it's not going to be ready right away, of course, but best guess, safest guess would be if the world behaves, January. But we're obviously not committing to anything. We're committing to get it get it out in January, but in order to do that, the world has to behave, and it isn't at the moment. There are shortages and shipping disruptions and all the rest of it that we cannot do too much about it. It's funny, when Colin and I were planning the show, we sort of realized, because of when it started, there was a let's just say a subtle or a sincere attempt to begin the show end of last year, beginning of this year, what have you. And we sort of realized by the time we're done with it, it will be in people's hands for January 22, which astrologically is going to be, let me put it this way, an exciting year, right? So in a funny way it works, that you're going to get the Fortune's Fools deck, this like, we're going to do our best to give you like the ultimate in a fortune-telling deck, just in time for the times in which you may need it. So, yeah. But anyway, the point is, big announcement, we can actually sell these fucking things now. And I am excited.
I am also excited. That is 2 excites for the price of 1.
Nice. All right. So we are at the beginning of the first episode. I wanted to do that. We want to look at some previous cards, and then which will begin with Cloud. I'll bring that up because Cloud, talk us through this, Colin, as I switch. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's actually amazing. Final snack. No, I'll give you the Cloud later. Let's go to, I don't know why that has happened. Wait here. And I will add a new scene. Talk amongst yourselves. Tell us about, no, just Vamp.
Guys, I'm going to tell you all about Bitcoin.
You're right, because you've actually had a
Which
haircut.
I've learned. So I got a haircut from my brother who I got on great with, and it was one of those ones where it was a 20-minute haircut that turned into a 2-hour haircut because we started discussing cryptocurrency, which I don't take anything to do with, but I'm interested in, and he's like been very into it for the past couple of years. So and I was like my dipshit brother I was like this bitch is a player, like he's doing shit. So it was very interesting. So I had like a 2-hour haircut and a 2-hour conversation with Elon fucking Musk. So, good time.
With Glasgow's very own Elon Musk. All right, so what I'm gonna what I'm gonna do is go back to screen share. I just dropped it on. There we go. This is pretty close to Final Cloud, but talk to us about it, Colin.
So on the last show we discussed like more of a cloud or more of a sort of mist up front on the flagstones, and we were back and forth on kind of like the color situation. And Gordon, just literally before we started the show, was like, I don't know the windmill color as a situation, and for me that's provided a kind of solve because there's a contrast issue with the level of white and gray versus everything else in the image.
Yeah.
So it's essentially done, but just tweaking kind of the kind of elements of color in it, which this is why it's good to have someone to work with to do this kind of stuff, because it's just like an obvious thing that is right in front of you that you're staring at all week or for however many weeks.
Yeah.
And then someone is like, someone is literally like, and I won't name names, someone is like, we need to change the color of the windmill, but it's going to look like a penis.
Yes.
Who was that?
Well, it is. But so here's the thing.
It's but to me, this is interesting. I like the process of it.
Yeah, totally. And what I think is going to happen here is, and we were sort of chatting about it before we went live, is to find the kind of like contrast range for the whole deck. I think in terms of next steps involves bringing down the contrast and bringing up some color in like the twink, right?
Yeah.
So the next step for this, because if this doesn't yet belong in the same deck as the rider without being like an overexposed bit on the screen, but it's more bringing up the color. So that's why you look at this and go, I get why it's golden and all that, because it's like morning light, and I love everything about it. I think the next steps in find, and it might be right, but when I look at this and I think of some of the other cards, it's like, well, it's not. Yes, the contrast range is too high, but the next steps are clearly. We were talking about the ship card and so on. When you get a moment, because I mean, this is easy, isn't it, Colin? Like one card a week for 36 weeks, off you go.
One card a week. This is how the process works. This is what it is. I just do it. No, well, I've said before there is like a cascade effect, and it is like it kind of builds up. But you're like, for me, I'm learning kind of what the deck looks like with every new card, and then I have to kind of echo back through the old sort of cards that we've already had.
Yeah.
So, for example, with the rider and the ship, black and white, and that was like an initial inspiration, like the Mika deck.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, okay, this needs to be colorized and it needs to be kind of brought into line with everything. And this is why, for me personally, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
What the essential elements of the card images are there, but just it was like throwing in one color just wasn't cutting it. So it's kind of as we've built the deck, and that's what we're doing. Like from the floor up, we're kind of building the deck. It's making more sense to kind of just add back and go into the color and bring it into alignment essentially.
Yes, and I think you got the tone right. Like it's not it's certainly not going to be a lurid deck, and by the time we get to the end of it,
because that is a word I kept throwing out this week.
Yeah.
Was lurid, but like I say lurid in a loving way. Because
same.
I find it to be a very very good word. It suggests interest to me.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely get to Snake for sure, but like that's sort of the point. Like this card, it belongs in the same universe as the rest of them, and now it's a question of kind of like massaging the tone as we move through it. Yes, lurid.
And I will not be done. I've come to the sad, sorry realization that I will not be done toggling with everything until the day of sending this to like the printer. Like I will be, doing shit that no one would like. It just wouldn't make a difference to anyone outside of my skull. But there will be like changes and toggles and things just because that is the nature of I think such a long project.
Yeah.
Is that you get to sit with everything for, maybe is it a healthy amount of time? Check back with me in 30 weeks.
Yeah. Depends who you ask. Yeah. But yeah, cool. All right. So anything else about, and again, this is Nathan's suggestion from last week, the sort of pop of color, because I think, at least at the moment, that's still in play as what the deck's going to do. So it's going to be a more picture one, I think, than we initially thought. But within that is still going to be like a heightened or stylized thing for each of the cards. And obviously the most obvious one there is the Clover card. But Nathan's suggestion to sort of have blown out clouds as the pop in this, I think is right. I think that looks really good. I think there's no way you're going to miss that in the same way you're not going to miss like the glowing green of the Clover when you've got a tableau in front of you.
Right. Yeah, it's an element of this that I knew going in that I would have to consider, but to actually consider it as it's not like drawing a comic or individual images. Like you do have to think of everything in Tableau and kind of how it relates to everything else. And it's I mean, by the end of this, we are going to be superheroes. We're going to be doing this like I don't know, like it's
one card a day.
One card a day. One card a day. That was like that. And we were chatting. And I was like, my goal by like card 10 is to knock out one card one day and then just get on with my life. And now I'm just like, that is not how anyone works on anything. That is just not. It's a fun goal. It's something to work towards. It's definitely improved my kind of productivity, but it's just not something that's not how, it doesn't apply to the world of the real human being, unfortunately.
Sadly, no. It's the same with podcasts.
It's 10,000 words a day. It's
exactly.
Thing that just doesn't exist.
It's the same with podcasts or something. You think, how long does it take to do an hour show a week? And I'm like, a week. Thank you for asking.
I'm in makeup for 4 hours before that show even kicks off. So. And this isn't even like the main podcast, you know what I mean?
Nice one. All right, so let's do. I mean, this we'll get to the reveal, but first I want to show. Oh, and I have to do it over here. But I go back to screen share. This was the snack journey this week, and I've accidentally kind of like revealed a little bit too early, so there was like a wardrobe malfunction, and the butterflies came out of my brassiere a bit too early this week. But
it was a preview, Gordon. It's a preview.
But this, I'm just
teasing.
I'm so happy with the snake journey because I want it to still be the traditional and sexist European associations, right? But I also need it to be those deep mythic associations. And the way to do that is with sorcery, right? So you get good snake, but good snake is also powerful snake. And so talk us through how you went with this.
So just from the conversation last week and talking about things like scale and like the different meanings in different kind of parts of the world of the snake, coming up with different compositions. And also like in the middle of it, I was like, I remembered a show, like we watched Raised by Wolves, and that featured a big floating creepy ass snake. But that was also kind of, you couldn't keep your eyes off of it. So there were elements that I wanted to kind of squeeze into it. But there were like a lot of rich options. Like each kind of option could have been its own card, but ultimately the one we went with was the right call because it kind of it compresses every element that we kind of discussed. I feel
because these are all excellent.
So I'm very happy with it.
The first one is like a creation event. It's Rainbow Snake, which is there, which isn't quite it's fantastic, but it isn't quite the card. And the second one is like a Mars Attacks Run for Your Life, which is also excellent. But the snake is, the whole point of the snake is deception, right? And snake.
It's not terrifying. It's not like
right.
A horror show kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why, and it's funny because I can't remember if we mentioned on the show, but when we were talking about using the previous, one of the visionary ayahuasca artworks as a sort of template, which you can see on the right there. I can't remember if we said on the show, if it was just in our private chat, so like that needs to be Michelle Gomez as the
no, we talked about it. I think we did kind of, we dropped it last week, like
as a joke.
She has the kind of like, or she's carved a career as like the character actress that as the serpent. So,
yeah. And like it happened. Like even at the sketch level, I said that actually looks like Michelle Gomez, and now we have like a Shipibo Michelle Gomez.
That wasn't like I didn't have like a reference photo or anything. That was just like, I think there's like an energy to that kind of character that, as let's be honest, as a gay man, I'm very familiar with throughout like, my career, consuming pop culture and all this kind of stuff.
So one of the reasons you wanted to be Michelle Gomez is the snake energy is there in the Sabrina show before it got shit, right?
Well, yeah.
So, and it's just in her life.
She is. I've known people who have first-hand experience with her, and they're just like, she is an absolute icon and cook, and like as in cookie, and then just every time I see her on in anything, I watch The Flight Attendant, and she's a genius. She is a bizarre little crumpet of genius. That's what she is.
Let's send
with a
her a deck.
very charming accent.
Let's send her a deck and say, you're actually in this, my love.
She's on the PR list.
So I mean, you go first because you did this, but it's funny, like you were joking beforehand, like it was because Zola Jesus is one of the my beloved Nika will end up in this deck, but not for the song for this week, for me anyway. But you're like, it kind of, there's a Zola Jesus energy. It's like Zola Jesus meets Michelle Gomez, but make it Shipibo, and I love it.
Yeah. So initially when doing it like this, like white robe, we were talking about like ayahuasca ceremonial robes and like the shamans and all that kind of stuff. So it was like it's like a full polo neck cut, and I was just like, the features were kind of less defined, and it's kind of, or it was more clear, but I ended up changing it. I ended up making the figure darker and more obscured because it's not the lady card, it's it's the snake card.
But again, and that works because it is supposed to be concealed. It's like you get the snake in the grass. This is the card of witchcraft. This is the card of that intimate moment between Eve and the snake. It's deceptive. Like snake in the grass is wherever the snake is in the deck is betrayal. But it's also all these other significations. But this card it just absolutely nails it because of course ayahuasca, Sachamama, all these kind of like rainbow serpent, all these profound, the serpent itself in Gnosticism, the snake is like profound transformation and beauty and wisdom is in this card, but it's also sorcery. Like I love it.
Yeah. Well, I had the idea of having her back to us because it's a secret kind of practice, and it's kind of you're not supposed to know what she's up to, what her machinations are. She's kind of just doing her own thing. But yeah, fully just, I was like, for an hour, I was like, what? Who is this woman and what does she remind me of? And then I was like, oh, it's Zola Jesus. There she is. Well, me out, indeed.
Nick is definitely going to get a deck, so we can say you're also in it too. If you are happy to also be half Michelle Gomez, and who wouldn't be? I wish I was.
Listen, we will take their debit card details and they can half in. Do a deal for them.
I think because we sort of went backwards and forwards about, well, not backwards and forwards, but the actual design of the snakeskin itself kind of went through various iterations, and you've just nailed it, right? Because you haven't done ayahuasca, have you?
Sadly, not yet. No. God help her when I eventually get to doing that, because it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. No, but I was familiar with the pattern. I'd said that it's Shipibo or Shipibo,
Shipibo, yeah.
Shipibo. I was familiar with the pattern. I'd never really known what it was called or what it was related to. I just seen it when you're like into like art and design and stuff. You just see hundreds of thousands of different types of textiles and references and stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, I totally know what that is. And I've seen it in some of the Pinterest pins. And you were like, yeah, that should be one. And I was like, oh, cool, okay. And it totally works with it. Like, this is the great thing about it is that on a snake body, it totally fits. Like this.
Well, that's
like,
that's what I mean. Like, you haven't done
human
ayahuasca. You've managed to do vision art without doing ayahuasca because she shows up like that. Like that's.
Well, I've done
good.
some other things, but it's not up there with ayahuasca.
I'm not what you'd call like a choir girl.
Yeah, I went to the famous Catholic school, St. Trinian, so.
Yeah. Very good. Now, people are talking about the river in the chat, which I'm happy to say was my suggestion because the initial ones that came through, I thought. It was like when we chatted about it last week and during the week, it's like make it in the jungle clearing. And when it came through, I'm like, oh, you made it by the river. That's actually, there's a number of reasons why that's better. And it is a sort of secondary or tertiary significations or presentations of the serpent as a card as a river. So because you've got tree and mountain and so on. So if you're trying to like find a dead body for the police, hopefully, you have landscape cards that can present. So, the missing child is by the river. God, this got dark. But like, anyway, the point is maybe you're doing a nicer spread than that, but the snake is a river card. So, typically if you go into the jungle, you will be by a river. And to have the reflection makes it kind of cosmic and all that kind of stuff. So like, it's, really well done.
Yeah, totally by accident because I'd sent you like an unfinished just composition and you're like, yeah, river, that's what that is. And I was just like, and I'm not the bitch that's like, yeah, that's totally what I was intending. I was just like, no, that's just not finished is what that is. And you were like, no, make it a river.
That's a river.
That's the correct call. But that's again, the fun part of collaboration is that you're collaborating.
Yeah, exactly. And it means that it has the resonance with the rainbow serpent. So it's that as above, so below. Like it is the cosmic serpent as well as ayahuasca, as well as all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, as far as I can tell from the chat, I think this is a favorite. So, yeah, well done. Anything else you want to say about this one? Wait a minute, have we lost you? Your audio output has vanished. Have I lost your audio? Can anyone else hear?
Who has me here?
No, there we go. You're back. Doesn't matter.
Oh. Okay. I feel like this is the stride of the deck because this is what just having finished this and then working on the other ones. I was like, this is what I want. I think to go back and make the ship kind of more in line with this, with like colorizing it and the rider. So it feels like a good card. To kind of so very happy with it
because the ship has will have color reflection of some description anyway.
Yeah.
So I see what you mean. It's brilliant. I'm glad it was the snake. It was funny because it was almost the cloud. It's like the cloud can't be the card that is purse forward for this deck because it's a card of confusion. It needs to be the card of sorcery. As the way in.
I mean, come on, like the pair of us, how could it not be? That's what I would suggest.
Exactly. So we'll talk about this week's card, which is the Coffin. But as we were chatting about it earlier in the week, I think, and I might even do a blog post about it this weekend, but I think the Coffin is a very good example of how and why Lenormand is often superior to tarot. And that's not really tarot's fault. And in fact, if you go through the tarot course in the premium members area, you can make tarot do the same thing. But because Lenormand as a deck languished in unfashionability except for the sort of genuine and kind of like underground European fortune tellers through the 20th century, rather than in the comparative bright lights of what happened to tarot in the 20th century, where it got caught up in emergent psychology and all this kind of stuff. So it's accrued these kind of fixed meanings, particularly from the mid 20th century on in the human potential movement and all this kind of stuff, which means that the bad cards in tarot in unskilled hands are like, no, actually that's good. So like the death card is good. It's like, oh no, this is a good card. It's like, it's transformation. It's letting go of the old so that the new may come into your life. I'm like, bitch, it is death. That's and the trouble is that's accrued into it. That's not there in the coffin card. The coffin card is a fucking coffin, right? This isn't a good card. This is the worst card. You can argue the toss, but don't with me. This is the worst card in the deck, in the sense that this is the card of calamity. It's a fucking coffin. When it's death as a cosmic figure, so the Reaper and so on, you can make the case that you have now gone on to your afterlife or just rewards psychologically. But when you do that, you're left with the minor arcana doing the heavy lifting of dealing with the tragedy of the human condition. And that's dumb. You need cards that are like, no, you're fucked, or this project is fucked, or what have you. And Lenormand can do that. And part of it is that phenomenological presentation. And I was chatting about it in the reading room in the Ansible this morning for me, yesterday evening for everyone else, which is tarot, and it's a language we bring to it, which we shouldn't. And I learned this from Queen Camellia, of course, but like representation is to represent something that is fixed and essentialized. And why I use words like, I deliberately avoid that word. So it's like presentation, because it's that the veritable thing itself. The coffin is a coffin. It's a box made of wood, right? Whereas to represent death is to situate it in a fixed bubble meaning. And that's kind of, it isn't necessarily in tarot if you know how to use it, hence the course and so on. But you cannot get Lenormand to work at all if you go in a fixed and essentialized representative mode, because it is relational. By definition, you can't do single card Lenormand spreads, because from the grand tableau down to its kind of binary language of modification, you put two cards so that, again, Clouds Rider or Rider Clouds will give you a different, like the message arrived as unclear, or I was in confusion and then I got a message. It is why it's so animist is that relational language. But the coffin, I think, is the best card for it, because it's a bad card. There's no avoiding the fact that it's the card of funerals and death and loss and endings. It's not a card of like, ooh, transformation. It's not a sort of 1990s divorced woman finds herself in Tuscany. Those endless books that came out. It's not that kind of stuff. It's which in the wrong hands you could like sort of lacquer over a death card. It's just shit. It's not a good card. And I was sort of sitting with that because I want to talk about its significations. But that's a little digression, I think, that you will not get Lenormand right unless you approach it phenomenologically in the widest sense, right? And I don't mean that as in the narrow, although it is quite wide, the narrow school of phenomenology, philosophically speaking. I just mean the thing itself. And you can kind of semiotically get there. Camellia does a semiotics thing. I do more of a, it is more of an animist theory of mine, but it's the same idea, which is like, what is on the card is what it is. It's not, it's not like, woo. Yeah. And that's its power.
Say what you see.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is the coffin card is not New Year, New Me. Then it's bitch. Time to pack it in.
Pretty much, but it like so. Let me go back to my enemy, and we'll have a look at some of the examples, because what it also is like I said, it's a box. So actually, no, I'll come back because before we get to it, which means, so for instance, if you've lost your luggage, the coffin card is luggage. Like, where the fuck is my luggage? Is there in it. So it literally presents as a box, and there's other reasons when we get to the depictions of it. But a good example, because we've almost we got halfway through the episode without mentioning it. It could also be a really cheap set in which you put shit things, such as RuPaul Down Under.
Yeah, I mean, I like that they have taken a, like, you know, one of those little Polly Pocket sets that you used to get as a kid and turned it just into like a working, viable TV stage. Yeah. Is New Zealand just 2 feet like wide or something? I don't.
It is. I've been
maybe
to.
That's the situation.
Like I mean, because I worked in New Zealand media, so I've been to TVNZ and I've been to TV3, so I've seen the whole range of sets that are stages that are available for TV production. If you go to Wellington, you obviously have Peter Jackson and you can do Lord of the Rings down there. It's probably not what Rue had in mind.
That is a different that's a different whole set. What are your, this was, to me, that was a Snatch game. Worst.
I couldn't.
Worst and sort of like worst and passable, but also, so you're an Australian person. To me, the dingo, the woman that had our kid taken away by a dingo, and right, where do you stand on that? Like, as a, like, to me, I'm like, I have like
everyone did it. Everyone did it inexplicably, and the guy who went home, like, he's modeled his whole personality in and out of drag on Kath Day Night from Kath and Kim. And so everyone's like, well, he's obviously going to do Kath Day Night, and he does Bindi Owen. And it's like, what the? If you look and sound exactly like an iconic character that is, and it's not that the UK team didn't do a good job of it, that guy is Kath. That guy is fucking Jane. That is Jane Turner. And I'm like, weird. You deserve to go home. And what I really like, to tell you what, there's 2 things, because everything about it is, and I knew this was going to happen. We've discussed this. Everything about it is so much worse than everything else, except for the lip syncs, which are incredible. The 2 of them we've
really.
Oh, look, they're giving it all. Like, I love that
great.
I love that the first one where he's like blocking his face, like, it's mean. It's mean.
That was good.
Yeah,
that was legit.
Yeah,
I am the worst lip sync judge because I genuinely do not find it to be. And that guy's, I'm handing him a card now. I'm sending it away to be burned and destroyed. Do not find lip syncs to be like particularly interesting.
Yeah, sure.
That, to me, that's so. If I was going to, in the real world, if I was going to go and see like a drag act, it's not to watch them fucking lip sync. It's to watch them, you know, rile the crowd up, do, you know, be funny, be characters. Like, you know who can do a great Kylie Minogue lip sync? Me. So I don't need to see some bitch in a wig do it better or worse. Like, I just don't need it.
What I particularly
judge in that area.
The best thing I could say is that I think the lip syncs were really good and everything else is shit. But I appreciated the honesty of the guy who went home saying, like, my career is over, and it's like, you'll do better. You'll get over it. He's like, no, I won't. I'm fucking done. And I'm like, do you know what, bitch? I actually think you are. I don't, because Australia is too small. And if you're in that, I mean, I know that's a real diva thing to do, but everyone, when they go home early, it's like, at least I got here and you haven't heard the last of me. He's like, I'm done. This has ruined my whole career.
This was, to me, so the way Drag Race works is you get like a lame producer that's like your person that's kind of dealing with you, and she's sitting trying to kind of console because he's clearly heartbroken, right? Or gutted, and she's like, at least you're here, and she's just like, the queen in question is like, that literally means nothing. So and I was like, so that, good to me, straight through the producer bullshit. That is
and so that was the only kind of like Australian thing I've seen so far, which is that kind of
not a
darkness
fuck about
exactly.
Not putting a nice face on absolute destruction. I was like, cool.
Which is like, for people who don't watch it, who are in the chat going, get the fuck back to the card. This is literally, we landed it exactly where I wanted to. That's a Coffin moment. Like that. That's hey, buck up. It's like, nope, that's not in the Coffin card. It is, my career is over. This means nothing. It is the card of endings. So we did that really well. That was the first time we elegantly, with charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent, dropped RuPaul correctly into the show.
we have, dare I say it, elevated drag. There we go. Which is a term that I still don't really understand what that means, but I keep hearing it. So, is it elevated? Yes.
Nice one. All right, so back to what we've been discussing for the coffin, and the general idea, as I scroll down, is the main inspiration is, of course, the Back to Black, and obviously that's probably giving you a little wink hint at my song choice. But the Amy Winehouse song Back to Black is shot in this marvelous cemetery in Stoke Newington, which we used to go to a bit because that's where James and I kept our lesbians, up in Stoke Newington. Lovely, right? And so what I want for it is it doesn't necessarily have to be cars, but I want it to be like a camera down, which is where the idea comes from. You'll see it in the next image. I want it to be camera down on a procession of people, obviously holding the coffin in the center of it, probably with the Winehouse character as she was doing at the front of the cars, walking slowly in front. But it's raining, so there are black umbrellas and things around it. But it's like a camera down on a procession carrying the coffin. And there are umbrellas. And the reason for the umbrellas is coming to the secondary meaning of the card as we move forward. And God, I can't believe this is the first time the fucking X-Files is in it. There we go. But whenever there's a funeral in the X-Files, first of all, it's in Arlington, and I'll get back to why that's important. But they have that really that's Arlington. Well, it's actually not. That's a place in Canada pretending to be Arlington, because that's how that's how the X-Files
TV is
make
made.
a show. Yeah, so that's not actually Arlington Cemetery. This one is, but we don't need to see it. You see how they've got, and this is Scully again, because more Scully, black umbrellas. There's something about, like, whenever they have a funeral and it's this fake Canadian Arlington, and they're all in their suits, of course, and they have black umbrellas. And so I'm kind of seeing the coffin in the center, and it may not be apparent that it's raining. We'll see how that works, but there are people around the coffin in the procession, and some of them have black umbrellas, because coming back to the fake Arlington, I want it to be in a kind of Arlington. However, camera down, I don't know how these gravestones are going to look. So see what you can do with it. And the reason for that is this is also a card of secrets, right? So if you think to the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, that kind of like government's top men moment, and the Ark is put in a wooden box and it's kind of wheeled down this enormous warehouse where there's all these kind of like hidden stuff. So the coffin is also the memory hole. So it's Area 51, it's buried secrets, and often deliberately buried. So I want, whilst its primary presentation is a coffin, like a funeral, an end of things, the burial of stuff to conceal it is also in that card, right? So there are actually a couple of cards of secrets in the Lenormand, because and that's why I think it's one of the reasons why it's such a robust fortune telling deck. It has enough cards of deception and danger to kind of accurately reflect the moment in a client's life that they would actually go and visit a fortune teller anyway. Like, no one goes to a fortune teller when it's like things are great. They go when they need to see what's going on in front of them, and they can't. And the coffin has that secret component to it as a secondary signification. But what are your thoughts?
It's just, I mean, this is one where I had no kind of preconceptions going in. So it's definitely an interesting idea. Using Back to Black is great, because that is, first of all, I was watching the video earlier because we were talking about it, and it's just like a gorgeous.
It's so fucking good.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it probably made on about 300 quid or whatever, and like however much it costs to like hire a hearse. Again, very difficult to say in a Scottish accent. And it's like, it must be like 10 years old now, or like 15 years old or something. And it's so good still. Like, just look at it, and she's just an icon. So
and
excellent.
Like, we living in North London when she died, but like, she's North London to me when I moved there and I lived there. And even the bit where she's at the beginning where she's sitting in the living room and then coming down the stairs, I have been in that house a lot of times. It's the most perfect. She was like the perfection of North London at that moment. Her dad's a fucking cab driver. She lived in Camden, like, and that is all in there, and it's perfect. And the song is perfect because I Go Back to Black is the burial ending, right? So it's not necessarily, and we do have other songs on the shortlist that are about loss and death and so on. But in Back to Black, and you'll notice that she buries what might be a newborn, but so there's a horror aspect to it, but it's also not the shape of a coffin. So she's burying something. She's putting it in the ground, and that's kind of why I think it works really well. The song works really well because of the film clip as a match, and we've sort of done how do you match songs to cards, because you can there are any number of songs that have like funerals. You could do My Heart Will Go On if you want to get sent to jail. But
Canadian jail.
But yeah, so I think because that has the tone of it, so it's almost like the tone of the card is Amy Winehouse at an X-Files funeral. $80 a pack, everyone. $80 for shipping.
In my head, I'm just like, that's a reference. That is a reference that I can Google absolutely, and something will come up.
It's just a screen grab of the show.
Us just talking about Drag Race for 20 minutes. It totally works because when it's like the X-Files funeral, there's again, it's you like, so it's been 100 years since I've watched it, but in all those shows, it's Homeland, it's Fringe, it's fucking 24 or whatever, Alias if you want to be nasty. It's buried, it's usually buried secrets, buried past. You're burying a person, but usually it's the end of a chapter of something. So it's it is an interesting reference to kind of think about as we're kind of coming up with a composition, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And also just to me, it's that kind of Jackie O kind of JFK, like the
it's
security that. And
so I think because I've watched
it's the earpiece, it's the black shades, it's just creepy as fuck.
And it's gonna be difficult, but I'm sure you'll nail it because you nailed the other one. So the woman at the front is like, you can put her in a hat if you want, because Amy's hair top down might be a bit of a challenge, right? But if there's some she can be like black lace goth, like Amy is in that. But some of the other ones need to be suits or military, or like intelligence agency, government style black umbrellas. And I think, I
actually drew Amy Winehouse 100 years ago as Aphrodite, and back when, we're talking like 2010, 2011. And I was like, I'm going to do this comic. It's a web comic. This is the idea. And basically thinking I had this amazing idea, and it was essentially Neil Gaiman. It was everyone else's idea that had happened like 10 years before me. But fully it was just like Amy, because I was in the moment with Amy Winehouse. Familiar with that hairstyle and like Helena Bonham Carter and all that kind of shit again. So a good old stacked hairstyle is not a challenge for me. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, good. And even if it's a weird way of saying it, even if it's not. So we know, for instance, the people who have been through the show, that the windmill in the cloud card is also, in its own way, the windmill from The Invisibles, where they time travel and bring back the Marquis de Sade. So for me, even if it's not there in the card, we know that it is a kind of Amy Winehouse X-Files funeral, because it's got to put those two together. Because in particular, in my head, and it won't show up in the card, or in my experience, is a better way of describing it. It's the funeral of the lone gunman, because, I've watched the shows more recently, right? But that's I
was going to say from the show, or from So the concept of the conspiracy.
Because that was one of those kind of like putting almost like hope to bed, like the quest of bringing things to light is over, right? And so that's why I'm at X-Files funeral, and also because I think of Gillian Anderson 20 times a day.
Because at our
Everyone
hearts,
does.
we are basically two lesbians just trying to make a deck here.
Exactly. Everyone does, and so I associate funerals with this kind of like black government umbrellas. But now we need to do the inset.
Yes.
It's the nine of
What are we dealing
diamonds.
with here?
Any idea why?
Why
Put you on the spot.
is the nine of diamonds? So this is discretion maybe, and the burying of something that one would perhaps prefer strategically to have buried is what my instinct would be here.
That's just you.
That's just me. That's because I have so many skeletons.
That's what I was
closet,
thinking.
okay?
That's just, every card is that for you. It's like, let's not tell them that.
I'm a shady bitch, guys. Sorry.
So there's a couple of them. Obviously diamonds are sharp, so there's a lot of phenomenological pain in nine of diamonds, and it's not the end of pain because it's a funeral, right? So it hurts. So there's a sadness to the card, and there's a darkness to it, which I'll get to in a second. But the other one is it's also a lot of money, so it's an inheritance card. So if you're looking for sources of wealth, you have an association with nine of diamonds on a card there. And if you're doing a future wealth spread and that's in a timeline, like that's further along in a tableau, as in the future, you can be like, well, there is some inheritance coming, and you can kind of look at the rest of the cards, like family relation cards, to get an indication of when. So in a situation of money, the Coffin card can be family inheritance for that reason. Now there's a third one, which you will like, and you're allowed to have this as a high concept drag name. The nine of diamonds is also called the Curse of Scotland.
Hey, another Curse of Scotland.
Yeah, well,
I thought that was just Westminster. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mention that because it started in the 18th century that the nine of diamonds became that, and it was either to do with like the jewels on the head of like a cursed king's head, right? So a king who doesn't get to be king, or a king who betrays the kingdom into the union of the crowns, or it's also somehow the suppression of a Jacobite uprising. But the nine of diamonds is called the Curse of Scotland, and it is it can be, and again, it depends on, I guess, who you're reading for. And this goes for playing cards as well, so it's not just the Coffin card. In fact, it's mostly for playing cards, but we are talking about the inset. So if you were looking for falls of government and so on, the nine of diamonds is a card you look at because it in its manifestation as the Curse of Scotland.
I'm going to have a look at this. That could potentially be very useful in the coming months / years. Yeah. by the sound of it.
Keep an eye out for it. Yeah, keep an eye out for like. Oh yeah, because I guess it's sort of in play given how the election went.
Oh geez, I mean, we keep teasing ourselves with this as if it's actually like. At this point, I'm just like, okay, we know we're all going to do it, but apparently.
I think you went quiet again. I wonder what's going on there. I hope everyone else can hear you because your audio just dropped out again. But don't do anything because it did come back last time. Just in time for the song choice, as a matter of fact.
Cancelled before my prey.
Yeah. Yes, Colin was going to sing the song, and then the internet muted him. The Curse of Scotland strikes again. Yeah, that's what your solo album could be called.
The Curse of Scotland. That's certainly what some people would perhaps suggest. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking about Ellie Diamond when we were talking about the 90 Diamonds before we hit record, and I'm like, keep that under your hat because Scotland and Diamonds is actually going to come up. So Ellie Diamond can also be the poor thing, but Ellie Diamond can also be the Curse of Scotland.
Poor Ellie Diamond and our listen, she got her time in the spotlight. It just happened on American Drag Race, and she wasn't on the stage. Okay, she got her time. That's all you can ask for.
All right, so it's funny, like the chat is, because of how this live streams, is about 10 seconds behind. So I've just watched as people go, can't hear, can't hear. Nope, you're back. So that's good. Nice one. We are onto songs, and obviously mine is Back to Black because of what we just discussed, and only because it's a weird way of saying it. Only because of the film clip, but also kind of because of Amy's life, really. And
Yeah, totally.
So there's
that's perfect. As the perfect little thing for it. Absolutely. Were there any backups for you?
There was, but you go first. What have you got?
Oh, okay. So mine was Shakespeare's Sister Stay, because of all of it, you know. In my head, I was doing like the grieving widow, because I don't know if there's Italian in my like ancestry, but I was going full like grieving widow for this one. So I was like, yeah, Stay. That's the number.
Yeah, I'm into it.
And also big drag act, which is the video is, you know, fabulous. Nothing to do with coffins, but a lot to do with death and grief and departing and loss and all that kind of stuff.
Because again, it's sort of like you think, oh, there's plenty of songs about death, but they're closer to the death card than the coffin. So you think, well, what about Tears in Heaven or something? You go, no, that's happy. It's not. That's a weird way of saying it. Child death is happy.
Yeah, I was gonna at first. So I really like "Ain't No Grave." Just like any version of it, it's one of my favorite songs. But it's too happy. It's too kind of like, no, I will overcome death. Like that.
Precisely.
Or like the spirit to it.
Just to make it even gayer, if that's possible, Janet Jackson, "Together Again," is a song about her friends who died of AIDS, and is a bop, and is not right for the coffin. So
well, too up tempo.
And so I had kind of going with that, like, well, what are the ones that are just kind of sad? And there's a thematic thing just staying with Scotland, I guess. But Love Song for a Vampire, which is the Annie Lennox theme song to Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Is that right? Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Because I was obsessed with that film. And this is way back, even though I'm 27, this was way back when you had to wait ages for things to come out on VHS. So I had like the book of the movie and the CD of the soundtrack, which I listened to. Like I was a normal kid. Like, so I could tell you, like, you play me 10 seconds of the Dracula soundtrack, and I'll know the scene, right?
You'll know what's happening. Did you like, Art Dad Connection? Did you ever? Mike Mignola did the comic adaptation for it, and
I wasn't cool enough for that. I grew up in a coal mining town in Newcastle, in Australia.
Just the most gorgeous thing. I get like
pulp
stunning
paperback novelizations of the film. So I read the novelization of the movie of Dracula rather than reading Bram Stoker's actual book Dracula, because I in fact went and bought that going, that movie changed my life, it's incredible, I'm going to go read Dracula. And I'm like, this is shit, this is crap. And then I saw the novelization. So I literally read the novelization of a film. So there were like Keanu's fucking lines in it. I don't have that anymore, which is a pity, because in a way,
probably worth a fortune.
Yeah. So yes, I can tell you with every confidence.
My intro at that time and that sort of time period would have been Dracula Dead and Loving It. So don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about the intellectualism of the whole situation.
And the other one was Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, because it's so good. It is really good. It actually has a lot of the energy of what I think. It's a little bit faster, but a lot of energy of what I actually want in the card, because of course it's a processional parade. And I watched it before we went live, and I'm like, God, Gerard Way could fucking get it back then. Yeah, I have no idea what it looks like now, and I don't care to.
Yeah, before we had a discussion about what we're thinking about. He did a cover of Hazy Shade of Winter for Umbrella Academy, funnily enough, which was gorgeous, and also the Black Parade, the album, Art Dad Connection. James Jean did the album cover design, who is like one of my kind of inspos. So the minute you said that, I was like, why the fuck did I not think of that? Like I got like my 2010 Fringe, like fully just, I just wanted to like instinctively just flick it out of the way.
Nice one. Did you have any others?
The Rolling Stones, Painted Black. Kind of like, this one was, I didn't think about it much until literally today. But also, like, I don't listen to a bunch of mournful music. Mostly it's just drag parody covers. So
Sure.
you know, no, but yeah. So that one, and I don't think there was another. I think that was it. Like I was coming in hot with. Oh, someone in the chat had suggested Florence and the Machine, a Coffin song, and I was kind of going to go with that.
Yeah, that was Nate, wasn't it?
Coffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Just because it had Coffin in the title, but yeah, I'm kind of happy with Stay. Like I kind of it's in that kind of morbid but kind of dramatic and kind of lush misery kind of like zone that I think is going to be useful for the coming week.
Nate's got some really good ideas in the chat too. We're doing a similar thing for premium members who are going through the planets for a field effect thing, and everyone they fancy us up and they'll suggest like a classical one. So Chopin Funeral March and so on. And I get it. And Nate's a musician. So I get why he's pitching really good ideas, but I'm like, it's a good idea, and it should probably go on the Spotify playlist anyway. But he's pitching some good ideas, some of which are too fancy in the chat.
I actually did. I kind of went into the emo zone where I was like listening to Evanescence Lacrimosa, which is like an adapted cover of a cover. It uses Lacrimosa. And I just thought, oh, no one's going to get that. Or like the Dance Macabre or something like.
So the actual death stuff, like the kind of, and this is, I like, so a good example that I instantly removed was Dead Can Dance stuff. Because the kind of like ooky, spooky death stuff itself belongs on the Scythe card. So it's, the Coffin is Gerard Way, Black Parade kind of thing, where the cards about like death as a being and spirit belong in the deck, just not on this card. So I get that, but there's a whole bunch of Dead Can Dance stuff that'll probably come back around when we do the Scythe, right? But I think we.
All right. Well, everyone immediately forget what I just suggested there because possibly going to be recycled.
Yeah. Yes, funny because we did, even though she, especially this week, went insane. We did Bette Midler for Snake, and I'm like, oh, she could kind of not I was going to use Wind Beneath My Wings as an example of not the right thing, but I'm like, I've got to stop mentioning Bette Midler, especially at the moment. But yeah, they all.
What did she do? Did she go create the?
She said that she basically called for the death of children who haven't been vaccinated. I'm like, that seems a bit far, Bet.
Jesus H. Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I believe about so obviously your Trump administration, that was the end of social media. I believe I kind of had to unfollow her at one point because I was just like, Cher kind of has Cher and Bet are kind of the same energy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, come on now.
Yeah. And
please,
it's they get more and more toxic the less and less people watch them. So they've cancelled the Golden Globes. Only 7 people, one of whom was Chris Knowles, watched the Oscars. They're over. And the worse, because the less relevant they get, the more toxic and attention starved the discourse becomes. So there's no.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah. It's insane. I mean, who do they think they are? Me? This is insane.
Exactly.
I mean, come on now, guys. We expected more of you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this concludes the Coffin. And so is that going to be, I mean, there's other stuff going on. What do you think your week looks like at the moment?
Bunch of catch up on the previous cards and the Coffin, I think. So tomorrow is, I think I'm going to focus on the ship and the cloud card because I kind of pretty much done. They just need to be solid in my point and in my view. And I think we'll fire out a couple of compositions for the funeral card, for the Coffin card, because it's again. So the cards that I think are just, I'm like, this week I was like, who cares? It's the Coffin card. Whatever. It's going to be a box. And I'm like, no, this is an interesting scene. It's something, you know what I mean? Something that I wasn't thinking was going to be a challenge or interesting to do. And I'm like, all right, I have a couple of ideas. So yeah, that's that. My week is going to be just a lot of research about coffins, or wiki holes about coffins, and just living my Tim Burton life.
Nice. And yeah, so you'll obviously, when you get around to dropping a few sketches in the Telegram chat, which people should join if you're not already joined. And the cards are for sale. The link will be below this video and on the various page. And if I can work out how to pin a message in the Telegram chat, I'm learning. I'll also I'll also have it pinned at the top of the chat. Nice one. All right, I'm just going to move my screens around so we could say goodbye. But good. No, I'm in the wrong one because the last time I do this, it'll cut off because of the thing. But good night, all, and yeah, see you in the next one.
Good night, WEG, everyone. Have a good week.